Trump versus Musk saga is making headlines. There is some good news coming in for the tech billionaire, and it's coming in from India. Well, according to reports, the Indian Department of Telecom has greenlit Elon Musk-owned Starlink to provide commercial satellite services in the country. We're given to understand that the company is likely to be granted trial spectrum in 15 to 20 days of applying for that license, and definitely this brings Starlink a step closer to launching its commercial operations in the country. But how soon can Starlink actually do that? That remains to be seen, given that there's going to be a trial license first that needs to be given as well. Trial operations need to be sorted out too. Remember, Starlink has been waiting for that license to be granted since 2022. However, the delays have largely been pending due to security clearances, and that's also something that Union Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has also spoken on several occasions, that security clearances need to be in place before that license is granted. Now, with that, there are three companies which have that license now. There is OneWeb, there is Reliance Jio, and Starcom as well. This, remember, presents a huge opportunity for Starlink in India, which is present in over 100 countries, given India's penetration of the internet. And this Starlink is expected to provide high-speed internet in places where regular internet doesn't reach. So that's a humongous opportunity not just for Starlink, but several other players who are in the fray. For now, it's Reliance Jio and OneWeb. We can expect Amazon's Kuiper to also be given that security-related license permit as well. But how soon will that come? That remains to be seen. Let's now shift our focus on this big news that's coming in from Bangladesh, ladies and gentlemen. Bangladesh will be holding elections in early April for the first time since a mass uprising overthrew the government last year. This announcement was made by interim leader Muhammad Yunus. He said, and I quote, "I'm announcing to the citizens of the country that the election will be held on any day in the first half of April 2026. And that announcement then puts an end to months of uncertainty and political debate over the timing of Bangladesh's next general elections. Muhammad Yunus had previously indicated that the polls could take place anytime between December 2025 and June 2026, depending on the progress of ongoing reforms. And let's take that development across to our special guest who's joining us to decode what this really means for the country now that elections are going to happen. I'm now joined by Veena Sikri, Indian former High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us here on ET Now. Is there finally hope of some stability in the country that's been marred largely by chaos, attacks on minorities, despite having someone who was supposed to bring together all the citizens?
Yes, well, I think the announcement of the elections in Bangladesh is not such a simple matter as it looks like. First of all, there has been a huge demand for early elections, and the deadline that was set was December of this year, December 2025. And just about 2 weeks ago, no less than the Chief of Army Staff, and as you know, the Army is the single largest source of stability and authority in Bangladesh. So the Chief of Army Staff 2 weeks ago had a huge, what they call a sabha, darbar, when he calls all the other serving officers and they discuss issues. And in the outcome of that meeting, one of the first points was that elections must be held in any circumstances by December 2025. Now, this was a determined statement made after discussion by the Chief of Army Staff with all his army officers, including those serving in peacekeeping, etc., all of that. So it was a very major statement. Now, in response to that, we have seen that certainly there's pressure on Muhammad Yunus to announce early elections. He had earlier said up to June, so he's advanced it by a couple of months and now said April. But I think the pressure will still remain to have it earlier than April. And we have not yet heard about the response of the army to the call for elections in April. This is one important point. The second important point, I think, is that all over the world, and certainly throughout Bangladesh, and even the government of India has made a statement on this, that the elections have to be free, fair, and inclusive. Now, this is very important. Inclusive means that the Awami League and all the pro-liberation parties on whom Muhammad Yunus has got a special animus against, they must be allowed to participate. We know that recently he had announced a decision banning the activities of the Awami League. The party has not yet been banned, but the activities of the party have been banned. So I think this is something that will come up as a big issue, and they must allow free, fair, and inclusive elections. As opposed to this, just today, there has been a very special report issued by Mr. Chakma, who heads the RRAG, Rights and Risk Analysis Group. And he has actually issued a report, and he's taking it to the ICC, International Criminal Court, that saying that Muhammad Yunus and the Jamaat-e-Islami and all these Islamist parties who back him have been conducting a complete murderous campaign. They've been killing and, absolutely brutally killing, even using tactics not used by, absolutely in the worst kind of killings, slaying their arms and legs. He's given a lot of gory details and saying that this is to intimidate the Awami League. At least there are recorded instances of maybe several hundred Awami Leaguers who've been killed in a very cruel and bestial manner. And there are even more which have not been recorded because they couldn't get witnesses and so on. But they know that the people have been killed. So this is a very serious complaint against the Muhammad Yunus regime and accusing them of crimes against humanity, crimes against the Awami League, actually pointing out how many of the Awami Leaguers are being killed on a daily basis, and the remaining people are in total fright. We do know that the Awami League is the single largest party in Bangladesh with a vote bank of at least 40% of the population. And to leave them out would be really a very unpopular step. So this is another point on which the Muhammad Yunus regime has to take a point. So while he may have given a date, I think there are a lot of issues still uncertain and unknown.
So, ma'am, are you suggesting that the dates that Muhammad Yunus has given, the country might not be able to hold elections?
There will be pressure to have it earlier than that. That is what I'm saying. That actually, the third issue that I didn't mention was that Muhammad Yunus and particularly the Islamist parties who back him, like Jamaat-e-Islami and others like Islami Andolan Bangladesh, Islamic organizations like Hifazat-e-Islam and all that, they've been insisting that reforms must be completed before elections are held. And this has been the single main reason for delay in elections, according to them. And on the other hand, everybody in Bangladesh has been saying that reforms can only be done by an elected parliament. So the elections should be held as soon as possible, and all the issues of reform should be conducted by should be considered in parliament, because even if it means amendment to the constitution or not amendment to the constitution, there are a lot of very major issues that cannot be done by an illegitimate, unelected regime like the one that is being led by Muhammad Yunus. And actually, Muhammad Yunus's regime is been getting more and more unpopular, and more even the media is now writing openly against him. Even elements of the media in Bangladesh that were at one time favoring his regime are now writing against him. So, there is this big issue that the reform process cannot be carried out. If the reform process cannot be carried out, then what is the delay in the elections? There is no reason that Muhammad Yunus and his regime have given. Why are they delaying the election? So the pressure will definitely be as agreed upon by the army, and the army is the one who actually put Muhammad Yunus in power, and now they're the ones who said a couple of weeks ago that you must have the election by December of this year. So I do see a point here that it's not so straightforward that they'll be interested in staying on till April. They want the government to have elections, and if you are going to have elections in December, you must have a new government appointed, and they must hold the election.
Yes, and it remains to be heard from the army on what their stance really is, given the fact that there's several challenges that persist in the country on account of the violence that's been ensuing, particularly against minorities. But ma'am, how might the outcome of these elections affect Bangladesh's foreign relations, especially with neighboring India and China, given the contenders who are currently in the fray?
Well, I think first and foremost, I must say that Muhammad Yunus, as much as he's unelected and not a constitutional body at all, the forces behind him are the radical Islamist forces, the Jamaat-e-Islami and other parties. Now, these parties have traditionally had a very great animus against India, and they have communicated that through Muhammad Yunus. So he has taken a consistently anti-Indian line ever since he came to power, and he's even wanting to stop the trade between India and Bangladesh and wanting to stop all connectivity issues between India and Bangladesh. He wanted to get that all the items of trade that come from India, whether it is cotton or cotton yarn or textile machinery or pharmaceutical ingredients, he said, I'll get them from other countries. Now, it's easy to say that, but when you go and try to get them from other countries, A, the cost is much more, and B, the time taken is much more. So as a result of the delays, in Bangladesh, factories have been closing down, people have been losing jobs, inflation is very high, even daily use commodities are not available. So people are very unhappy with all of that. So I think that they really don't want the Yunus regime to continue. Yes. They want that election should be held as soon as possible. And you get back to a normalcy. And I think for India, that's the same. We would like there to be free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh. And whoever wins the elections, India will be happy to work with that person. I think they've all seen in the last 6 to 8 months that having an anti-India policy because of sheer animus, it doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't help the people. It doesn't lead to smooth trade. It only leads to a lot of unhappiness. So I think we will wait for elections. We hope that they will be held by December of this year.
Right, and remains to be seen how the trajectory of Bangladesh's, relations, ties with India, whether they will improve or whether a similar script will follow. Well, on that note, thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us and sharing your perspectives on Bangladesh elections. Remains to be seen the outcome of those elections. Thank you very much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some news coming in. Well, the loan to value for gold loans below 2.5 lakhs has been now revised to 85% from 75%.